Today's episode of The Rock Fight is presented by Oboes, who wants to share their love of hiking, and we want to help them by uncovering all the different ways we love to take the long walk, including the following reasons. Number one, that feeling of superiority when you tell your coworkers that you, quote, did a hike this weekend. Number two, bugs love the taste of type A personalities. Number three, it's the only place where talking to yourself out loud is normal. And number four, hiking means the Bridger boot collection. The Bridger Ridge is here to help you smooth out the rough trails in front of you. With enhanced stability and protection, the Bridger Ridge is Oboe's first boot with Gore-Tex. So bring on the smiles and the miles in the Bridger Ridge. And if you're near my old hometown of Dover, New Hampshire, you can get your Oboes at legendary Red's Shoe Barn. You can't stop by Biddy Mulligan's, you can't stop by Kelly's Row or the Barley Pub. They're all gone, but Red's is still there. Get your Bridger Ridges at Red's. And this hiking appreciation moment is brought to you by Oboes of Bozeman, Montana, certified B Corp, 6 million tree planter, and inhabitant of the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. Oboes is the maker of premium quality footwear for the trail and the Cupid to the outdoor world. Oboes, love hiking. Welcome to The Rock Fight, where we speak our truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. This is an outdoor podcast that aims for the head. I'm Colin, and today we're digging into last week's news that is rocking the footwear world, Dick's acquisition of Footlocker. But before we get to any of that, are you ready to crown the winner of the best outdoor town draft? Head to rockfight.co to vote on who drafted the best list of outdoor towns from last Friday's episode of The Rock Fight. And tomorrow, Tuesday, May 20th, you'll get to open the container with Doug Schnitzbahn as he opens the container with musician Greta Morgan. And lastly, are you heading to Switchback in June? If so, be sure to put the Rock Fight live on your agenda for Tuesday, June 17th at 5 o'clock in the Trailheads Theater. I'll be there with producer Dave, Eoin, Shantae Salabert. If Switchback's going to be the event of the summer, this will be the event at the event. Don't miss it. And all right, stick around. We'll be right back. All right, folks, time to set the record straight. A few weeks back, listeners heard me rant on about a new sandal from Lem's Shoes. That sandal, the new Switchback sandal, was a classic single-strap, single-post style that I, without much knowledge, accused of being just like someone else. What I wasn't informed on was Lem's unique take on making footwear, and let's just say a few rocks were thrown back at me, and rightly so, because Lem's has really elevated the design of minimalist, natural movement footwear, anatomically correct, zero-drop comfort, and lightweight outdoor performance. And the Switchback? It's crafted from a single piece of material and features a unique single-strap design with one buckle for super ease of use, added comfort, and getting it on outside. You can go get yourself a pair right now at lemsshoes.com, where you'll also find that Lems is running a 20% off sale from now until May 11th. Oh, and hey, retailers, did you know that Lems is looking for wholesale partners? Hit them up at support@lemsshoes.com to add a little flavor to your shoe wall. And be sure to stop by and say hi to the Lems team at their booth at Switchback in Nashville this June. Check out the new Switchback sandal and all of Lem's shoes by heading over to lemsshoes.com. You're listening to Rock Fight Radio.
A ball sock for old times. It's no ordinary sock. It does what it says it does. Fit. Our socks merino, but they don't fall down. This sock fits better than your sock. A funky shaped sock that's an elegant solution to budging in the toes, heel slippage, and falling down at the ankle. A sock with padded 10-inch structures that achieve whole foot comfort that you can really feel like, whoa. A sock that acts like a base layer. A sock that's all about the base layer. A thermoregulating, moisture-wicking, body-forming base layer. Fits is a sock that fits better than your sock, maybe even the best sock ever. It really could be Fits, a bull sock for old times. It's no ordinary sock. It does what it says it does. Fit, 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 fit. It really could be Fits. Layer.
Well, you got DJ CT right here with you, and that was Bold Sock, the first big hit we ever had from Fits. Fits has been knitting the hits since 2014 with their patented whole foot comfort approach to making fine gauge merino performance socks. They make some of the best basics in the biz. Retailers, make sure to stop by and say hi at GOA Connect this June. It will be sure to put a smile on your toes. And now, back to the show. It's Monday, which means we're here with producer Dave, as well as the outdoor industry insider, the consigliere to the rock fight captain, Eoin Comerford. This may end up being an abbreviated show, though, guys, because I do have to go to a colonoscopy. So to all men and women listening to this over a certain age, get your colonoscopy. I think I am the newest inductee on this call to the colonoscopy club, though, right? You guys have all been through this before?
Oh, yeah.
I've had a couple. It's so much fun.
Was that good?
That good, yeah.
You went back for more.
Went back for more, yeah. But it's nice to know that we have a podcast host with a very clean colon right now. So
true.
that's amazing.
And soon we're going to have Colin with a clean colon. That's exciting.
Welcome back to the colon cast.
That's right. The alliterative options are just outstanding.
Clean colon Colin. Yeah.
Maybe I missed my calling, all this outdoor stuff. The colon cast with colon true, right? That would have been
yes, we should
go with the Colin Powell pronunciation.
Right.
Right. Yes.
He ruined it for everybody. Okay. All right.
Do you get a lot of colons?
Yeah, I get a few of those for sure. Mostly it's the two L's that I get, but I do get the occasional colon. Yeah.
Colon.
Yeah. Mostly the weird thing about my name is, and I'm sure your whole life has been spent explaining how to pronounce. I asked you, how do you pronounce your name? That's been your life.
Sure.
But
yes,
it's the people who don't know how to spell my last name, and they always misspell true. And I think it's like TREW. They just can't. It can't be just as obvious as TRUE, right? So
it can't be true.
That's it. Right. So it's interesting. Actually, in college, I dated a woman whose last name was Love, first name TRU. That was her actual name.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like hippie parents? Like what's going on?
Yeah, pretty much.
Come on, without a doubt.
Pretty much.
True love.
Mm-hmm.
Did she lean into it, or was she like rabid conservative?
Fully.
You know?
No. She, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right, guys. Our top story today is presented by your hub for ultralight gear, Garage Grown Gear. Head to garagegrowngear.com and check them out. Have you guys heard Shantae on the Wednesday episodes talking about how she doesn't like when we refer to them as GGG? Yeah. What's that about?
I don't quite understand it, but okay.
I think it's nice. GGG. I kind of like saying it. All right, our story today. Last Wednesday, word broke on footwear news that Dick's Sporting Goods would be acquiring famed retailer Footlocker for $2.4 billion. This merger is a team-up that will absolutely rock the footwear world to its foundation. Dick's was already a go-to spot for shoes, and despite some ups and downs, Footlocker is arguably the most important footwear retailer of the past 40 years. This merger means that we're combining Dick's 855 locations with Footlocker's 2,400 locations. Now, before we kind of break down this acquisition, I have prepared a quiz for you guys. Okay, you ready? I wish I had got like buzzers. We could like ring you in.
Boy, okay.
But we're gonna do a little footwear history, a Footlocker history quiz. All right, are we ready?
Okay,
let's go.
For $1,000, what year was Footlocker founded?
Oh shit! I'm gonna go 72.
Okay, that's a good time. 70 or 72. Man, I'm going to say 70. Oh, no. I'm going to go 68.
Final answer?
Yeah.
1974. Eoin gets the first one. Yeah. Now, the Footlocker came about as there was a retailer and a shoe brand that led to the creation of Footlocker. Can you name the retailer and the shoe brand?
Well, I know it was Woolworths.
Correct. That's the retailer.
Was the retailer that it came out of.
Yep.
But the shoe brand, somebody like
Converse?
Buster Brown or Kinney or somebody like that.
Kinney. Right. It was Kinney shoes.
Was it really?
Yeah. Dave. We've got both of them. Wow. Nice job, Dave.
Both I was shamed into wearing as a youth. So there you go. Like that was...
All right, we're tied 1-1. Owen got the first question. Dave got the second one. Third question. Woolworth continued to operate Footlocker under the moniker of the Woolworth Corporation until 1998 when it changed its name to what?
Oh, Woolworth changed its name?
Well, there was, it kind of switched over to something group.
Bankruptcy? Is that a name?
Well, I thought Owen would be on this one.
Yeah, I know. I thought I would too. I'll know it when I hear it.
The Venator Group.
Oh no, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I did not know that.
All right, last question. We're still tied going into the last question.
Okay.
Can you accurately describe the amount of cocaine that was snorted in Footlocker's headquarters during the 1980s.
Yes, I believe they called that swimming pool units or SPUs, right?
I
How
had written
much
down
could
there's
you
no way to
fill
measure an amount that
a
large, but I think you're right.
No, there absolutely is. That's right. You could actually measure that in swimming pool units, right? Absolutely. The amount of chicanery going on with Footlocker and the growing and popular footwear industry in the 80s is legendary. That's right.
We've got to give it to Dave for SPUs.
I think you win. That was a good one. Nice
SPUs.
job, Dave. You win the Footlocker quiz.
Uh,
I remember how important Woolworth was. I remember going to Woolworth at the local mall for all sorts of stuff growing up, and just, man, like kind of gone to history now, right? I mean,
See, that's before
Right.
my time. Yeah. Because I showed up on these shores in 1986, so I think Woolworths was already sort of on the decline
Totally.
back then. Yeah.
did you ever shop at a Gimbals?
No, sir.
Yeah, we had Gimbals as well, but
But you
All right,
did.
let's-
See, yeah, we didn't have gimbals out where we were.
was that more of an East Coast thing, probably?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you were in Fred Meyer land your whole life.
Fred Meyer, Nordstrom, and Meyer and Frank would have been the regional,
Meyer
and
and
those
Frank.
Meyer and Frank got taken out by Macy's. But
We did have a Montgomery Ward,
Okay,
back
yeah,
in the
for
day.
sure.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the deal. Now, I mean, we can talk about the numbers in the deal, but I think we should focus more on the why, right? So, Owen, you know Dick's
Yeah.
better than anyone in this call, having spent time there. Why does this acquisition of Footlocker for Dick's, why does it make sense for Dick's? Like, how does this play into their long-term strategy?
The main thing is footwear dominance, right? So Dick's has really done well with footwear over the last number of years. They actually grew it from like 19% of the business, or about $1.8 billion back in 2020, to $3.8 billion. So they've more than doubled the business. It's now 28% of what they do last fiscal year. So and they've done really well with it because they've maintained really great relationships with a lot of the big players, the Nikes, the Adidas of the world, even Under Armour, building shop and shops, etc. They've invested a lot in their what they call their upgraded premium footwear decks. I think they're called now, and so they've put a lot behind it, and they really see that footwear is the core of everything that they do, right? So if you look at a Dick's, it's the footwear is either in the middle of the store or it's on the back wall of the store in the middle. So it's like the milk in the grocery store is footwear, right? It's what brings people into the store too, right? Because one of the things famously that Ed Stack says is it doesn't matter what the economy is doing. If your kid is playing soccer, they've grown out of their soccer shoes, they're going to need new shoes.
Right.
Now maybe there's
Right.
there's a choice between whether they go for the $60 shoes or the $100 shoes, but they're getting some new shoes. So that's a key part of the way they look at it, and so that's $3.8 billion at Dick's. Footlocker, right, $8 billion roughly last year. I think 86% of it is footwear. They do some apparel, some accessories, but it's mainly footwear, about 6.7 billion. So combine those two together, you've got a $10.5 billion footwear powerhouse.
Incredible.
And that's the real driver. And you look at what has really driven Dick's success of late is the fact that it has this leverage with the brands because of their position in the marketplace, they're taking share, their premium merchandising position. And so they've been able to get a lot of the hot brands and a lot of the hot styles that maybe some of the others, including Footlocker, have not been able to get. And it's getting those sorts of exclusives that really drive profitability. So that's the sort of the second aspect. The third thing I would say is store footprint, right? You look at Dick's has almost 900 stores, well, like 855 or so, across all their banners. Footlocker has 2,400 stores. That's a lot of flipping stores. Now they're much smaller, obviously,
Sure.
right? But so actually, in terms of square footage, Dick's is about 43 million square feet. Footlocker about 13 million. So about a third the size maybe, but still, that's a lot of doors and across the country, but then also internationally. And we'll get to that in a minute, whether that's a plus or minus. The other thing is their loyalty program. So Dick's, the scorecard has been very successful. It drove 75% of their sales last year through scorecard. And Footlocker has been kind of struggling with their loyalty program. So this gives Dick's an even bigger audience and adds even more value.
75% of the sales at Dick's were tied back to their loyalty program?
Exactly. So they did whatever it was, 13 point something billion last year, 13.8 maybe. 75% of that was through scorecard. So it's a very successful program. And, and if they can increase the value of that or the touch points of that program, it makes it even stickier for them. And then finally, the last thing in all of these deals is synergies, right? And synergies, again, as we said, is kind of Latin for layoffs. But basically, what it means is they're going to, they're going to look to. You don't need all the overhead of two large, big box, or well, I guess not big box, large retail chains. You don't need to duplicate all of the headcount. So I'm sure there's going to be some culling there to save some money along the way.
I was curious about the assortment difference. I mean, I think of Dick's as sort of like, actually Dick's, I was thinking about this as terms of, they're probably more of a threat even to like run specialty shops, right? Because it has become like a go-to just athletic shoe stop, whether it's your kids' cleats, like you said, or I need a new pair of running shoes. I think of Footlocker as, hey, that's a mall store. That's probably more of that, like, it's cooler shoes. It's Air Force Ones. It's things like that, right? I mean, I know I'm very much generalizing here. Is there a complementary aspect of it when you think of the assortment of like what the two retailers carry, or is there a lot of overlap?
There's a ton of overlap, but yes, I think you're characterizing it the right way, which is to say that Footlocker tends to be a little bit more lifestyle, street, etc., whereas Dick's, does tend a little bit more into the true functional user, soccer, basketball, run, etc. But there's also a lot of overlap in between, like those high heat styles, as they call them, are certainly, a little bit more on the lifestyle side.
Dave, do you have a brand observation about the two kind of the merging? Like what was your initial reaction when you saw the headline? Was it like, oh yeah, it makes sense? Or like, oh, that's interesting. I got to think about that for a second.
No, my first reaction was, didn't they already own Footlocker? I was like, I'm surprised that this hasn't happened before. It is interesting though, in the sense that this is kind of like the shoe has turned here, in that Dick's is definitely the more powerful, kind of upward trending brand and stock and everything, right? In terms of its mix, like you said, it's starting to get kind of first crack at some of these styles that maybe would have only been exclusive to Footlocker before, at least from a mass retailer. And so now you've got Footlocker that has been struggling. I mean, like you brought up all those locations. Like my question is, are they going to keep them? As much as they want the expansion, I can't believe that it's going to continue with that. Footlocker also has a pretty big investment, like a big investment in Goat, the website that's all secondary sneakers. So it's really kind of a big player in that. So, are they going to double down on that side of the equation? But there's just, all those malls and all forms of small towns and inner cities and things like that. Will they keep that footprint? I'm not sure that they will, but it is just, like I said, it's interesting how they have switched. But for a footwear person, Footlocker, even though it has kind of lost its luster, and even in outdoor, ACG doesn't happen without a Footlocker. Timberland, the trend that we know, Timberland, the brand we know today, doesn't happen without Footlocker. I would even say brands are, some of the Moabs, the Hydros, the Speeds, things like that, from Merrell, also get this elevated boost that Footlocker provided. Probably North Face in the same way, or some of the Solomon stuff, from the recent kind of Gorp Corey kind of vibe. I think just being in Footlocker and that added eyes of the people that do kind of populate the sneaker world, give good credibility to the outdoor brands. So I do think that that's probably a thing they'll want to keep, but it'll be interesting. Does Dick's try to grab all of that for themselves?
Two numbers that I want to point back to, Owen, and what you were saying, like the fact that Dick's has added $2 billion in footwear sales in 4 years. Like, that's incredible. Number one, like, that just like good work, I guess. I mean, it seems like it has a strategy paid off. And two, like the loyalty, 75% of the sales being tied to the loyalty program. Wow. Like, just did not know that there were that many loyal shoppers to Dick's. And it kind of sets then, the circumstances of what this merger can mean, and what is the overall market reacted to how this has come together in the days since it has been announced.
The stock market has hated it. Really, I mean,
Yeah.
their shares.
Well,
the
not
day
Footlocker stock.
Well, no, yeah, sure, because well, that's part of it actually, Dave, is because I think part of the reason that that market hates it is because of the premium that Dick's put out there, right? I mean, their stocks were the Footlocker stocks were trading for about $13 the day before it was announced, and then Dick's offered to buy it at $24. I mean, that's almost a 90% premium, and typically in these kind of deals, 20-30% is kind of would be a typical premium, or if you look at like over the like a 60-day trading window and you take an average of that, maybe 40-50%. They're at 66% of that trading window, so it seems a little rich. Now, in fairness, Footlocker's stock has been kind of in free fall this year, so you don't only have to go back to December to see a $24 number. So that I'm sure was a big driver in the premium. But yeah, they gave up a lot. But the problem is, did they? So the market's maybe saying they paid too much on the one hand, and sorry, in terms of the market reaction, they were down 15% on the day this was announced. Okay, so Dick's lost 2.5 billion in market cap on the day that it announced this 2.4 or $2.5 billion acquisition. So that's not good. And it really, what it really tells me though, more than the premium or that they paid, I think there's a concern in the market that Dick's is going to get distracted, right? That they have really been, I think the market has been rewarding them, quite frankly, for really good execution against some really clear strategies to be this premium player, to have this premium merchandise from the top brands, and it's been working. House of Sport, all the rest of it. I mean, they've been growing. Like, as you say, they've been adding $2 billion in footwear. Meanwhile, Footlocker lost $1 billion in footwear over roughly the same period.
Right.
So, they're winning. And now it's like, well, okay, will they be able to continue to win and continue to fund more House of Sports and do all these other things if they're distracted by trying to turn around Footlocker, who, as Dave said, has been struggling. Footlocker's been closing stores. I think they've closed like 300 doors over the last few years. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of concern there. Also, Dick's is going to have to take on debt more than likely to fund this thing. And historically, they've had a really clean balance sheet. So I think that's a concern. And then finally, international. So, I mean, some people are saying, oh, the reason that Dick's is doing this is because of they want to get international presence. Personally, I don't think so. I mean, Dick's has very intentionally avoided international, right? I mean, that was an option. They could have expanded into Canada. They could have expanded into Europe, and they've said, no, we don't want that complexity. We're going to, keep an eye on what's core to Dick's and be the best operator in sporting goods in the United States. And that's been super successful for them. So yeah, so now we get all this other stuff. So yeah, interesting. We'll see how it all plays out.
What about the brands, right? Because if you're an athletic footwear brand that we talked about, there's crossover in the assortment and things like that. I mean, do we anticipate any measurable impact to the brands, or is it more likely for them business as usual?
I don't think it's business as usual. I mean, I think Dick's didn't do this to not have dominance in the space, right? I mean, that's the big carrot here, is that $10 billion a year number. And it was interesting. Ed Stack, in his comments about the deal, really actually pointed to Nike and said, hey, one of the reasons that this deal makes sense is because Nike is re-engaging with wholesale and really wants support. And actually, if you look at Footlocker, you go back to I think like to 2020, 21 or whatever. At one point, Nike was 75% of their business. 75%. That is unbelievable.
That's huge. Unbelievable.
Right? And according to some of the numbers I saw, they're down to by 2023, it was down to like 35%. So Nike really pulled back on the allocation that they were getting, but also the not just the amount of product they were getting, but also the allocation of the high heat product, right? And Dick's was benefiting from that, right? So I think the expectation is, hey, Nike's leaning in again. We Dick's have an amazing relationship with Nike, so those two things together will actually be able to really raise the level of the assortment in your average Footlocker, and you drive it to the next level, and also bring in all the hot product from Adidas, On, Hoka, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, gonna be interesting.
I think that Dick's just was getting left out of ComplexCon and just couldn't get tickets, and so that's why they're doing this. It's a
Weren't cool
$1
enough.
billion play to get invited to the cool parties.
Maybe they've secretly been really cool this whole time, though. I mean, it's kind of just the numbers and the loyalty is pretty outstanding.
No, Colin.
Operations are not that sexy, but when you operate a really clean store, I think it works. I think the bigger question though about that whole sort of footwear dominance thing is antitrust, right? Will this thing draw regulatory scrutiny? I personally, I think that if we didn't have Donald Trump in the White House, this deal would never have happened. Under a prior FTC commissioner, Lena Khan, who shut down the Tapestry deal, et cetera. I don't think this deal would have passed muster, or the risk of it being killed would have said we're not going to spend the time to try to pull this thing together. And so I think what's perceived as a much more quote unquote business friendly administration. And also obviously Ed Stack is a very big Republican political player. Actually, he reportedly looked at a presidential run in 2020. So anyway, but yeah. So I do think that the having this administration in place was a catalyst to making this thing happen.
So hold on, one quick question back to kind of you're talking about valuation. What would the strategic move be? Why did they pay a $10 premium to a stock that was trending down when they probably could have gotten it for that 30%, like you said? What would be the reasoning for that?
The reasoning is likely because they felt like that's what they had to pay to get enough shareholders to back the deal. Because of the recency at which it was at that level, if it had been 10 months or 12 months since it was $24 a share, maybe then you wouldn't have done it. I think it was more a case of the thought that they just won't get enough people to buy in at that level.
I just want to go back to one thing you said, Eoin. Can we still describe Donald Trump as a business friendly president?
But that's why I said quote unquote.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's one business that he's very friendly to, and that is the Trump family business. But everyone else, maybe not so much.
This is an outdoor podcast, so let's talk about a little bit how this pertains to the industry, right? Because this is a pretty big blow to not blow, but a pretty big news in the retail landscape. The actions of these bigger players can really impact the retail playing field. I look at Dick's as kind of being right there with REI and the general outdoor. I know that you guys might have some different opinions on that, but it definitely, they kind of get mentioned in the same breath a lot. Do we see this as a move that strengthens them in that kind of competitive landscape, or just in general, what does this mean for the future of the outdoor industry, if anything?
First of all, I definitely don't agree that REI and Dick's are in the same breath when it comes to outdoor. At least for true enthusiasts, you can equip yourself for a backpacking trip at REI. You cannot equip yourself for a backpacking trip at Dick's Sporting Goods unless you want to go.
Technically, you can. I mean,
okay, yeah. If you want to have a 50-pound pack and eat whatever granola bars, but no, it's not the same.
It's not the same thing. I got you.
No, but here's what I would say though is what we may see is actually, because I do think a lot of this is about footwear dominance and leveraging that with brands. We may see REI get lone peaked by the Dick's of the future.
Might lose out on a few exclusives.
Exactly. Because I think if you've got a $10 billion footwear behemoth saying, hey, listen, we don't want to see your latest thing show up anywhere else, including and especially REI, then that's what will happen.
No, that's true. And that is interesting given the stated goals of REI to do more in the run world, right? And kind of building their almost like shop and shop style of run specialty in REI. The Lone Peak is a good example. By the way, I love the idea of using, Lone Peak like that. You getting Lone Peaked. That's great. We got to make sure we keep that around. But it will be interesting on the footwear side. How does this play out? Because if you're someone like an On, right, who is an athletic brand but you sell to both entities, where are you going to give the exclusive? It's going to be to the Footlocker Dick's side of the aisle, I would think.
Exactly.
Well, it's going to also allow, though, Dick's to, and I think they've naturally kind of gone this way in the last few years, and why maybe we see the big rise in Dick's. They've doubled down on the performance side of the business, right? As much as they carry a broader SKU, their back to school is always on team sports, right? They're really even the outdoor stuff. There's the lifestyle side of it, but they want the trail runner. They want the things that have some kind of credibility to it. And so this would allow them to let Footlocker continue to play the lifestyle side. So On, for example, can lean into that side of their business while still, offering the performance. I don't know, exclusivity is the right word, but definitely giving it kind of two different environments for the brands to express themselves under one kind of buying group.
It'll be interesting also as this Dick's Footlocker combo negotiates with brands how they view outdoor specialty, right? Because Dick's very much views the REIs of the world as their direct competition, right? Big box versus big box. Dick's, Shields, other players in that space, Academy, right? They're the ones that they're really worried about. Amazon. I'm not so sure that they're that worried about independent outdoor specialty, right? In the grand scheme of things. And so, and in some cases, like even run specialty, where does run specialty fit into Dick's view of the world, right? Like, do they actually like to see run specialty drive further business to them, or do they want all that business for themselves? So hard to say, really. But I do think the bigger players will be the ones who will be more impacted by this move.
So Roadrunner, for example, where do they fit in Dick's targeting?
I don't think this is good news for Roadrunner. I really don't, because Dick's really does bring that, as we were saying, that more functional expertise in the footwear space into this, and it will be interesting. I think the biggest change you're going to see in Footlocker is in merchandise and merchandising, right? So the assortment and then how it's presented to the customer, because that really is where Dick's Sporting Goods shines, right? And so, which way will it go, right? Will they lean into Footlocker on more the lifestyle street side of things, or will they try to introduce more of the Dick's performance functional side? So, and if they do, then I think then run specialty is probably going to feel some pain from that, but by having Footlocker be more of a run specialty player.
I'm just hoping that we now see all of the Dick's staff wear, the umpire uniforms, the referee uniforms on the floor. That'll be fantastic.
No, Dick's staff, they don't like them to be seen. That's the thing about when you shop at a Dick's. They're just like,
How would you know that they're there? Well, if they're zebras, they'll blend right in. That's kind of the goal.
Just stop moving.
Yeah.
Well, today is the last day of Small Business Sales Week, organized by Garage Grown Gear. They've got 90-plus small gear brands running incredible deals on their own respective websites. Score ultralight backpacking gear while helping to support the small gear brands which make up the backbone of the ultralight hiking community. It's never been more important to support small independent brands, and your purchases really do make a difference. Check out all the deals at the link in the show notes, or just head over to garagegrowngear.com. Check it out today.
It's time for a party shop.
All right, it's time for the parting shot, and I'm recording this the day after the conversation you just heard. My parting shot is to all of you to make sure that if you are of a certain age, you get that colonoscopy that we were talking about. So I'm 49. Yesterday was my first colonoscopy. The guidelines state that you're supposed to start having them at 45, but for the past few years, I was told that I could wait until I was 50 because I lead a pretty healthy lifestyle, I guess. And I decided I didn't want to wait anymore because, you know what? My dad waited. He actually didn't wait. He just avoided getting a colonoscopy. And then in his 70s, guess what happened? Yeah, colon cancer. He would end up recovering after having surgery and getting a colostomy bag and all of that stuff. But it was pretty obvious that if he had started being proactive earlier in his life, that he probably would have avoided all of that. So I went yesterday, and it's just like everyone tells you, it's not that big of a deal. I came through with 0 polyps, which means I don't have to do it again for 10 years. So effectively, I'm kind of like killing it at being middle-aged. I'm sort of the best at being middle-aged right now. No, but seriously, if you're listening to this and you're over 45 or you have someone in your life who is over 45, have them go get this done. It's not that big a deal. Yeah, it sucks to have a day where you can't really eat anything and you got to poop a lot. Oh, well. You know what? The way I feel today, knowing what I know, made that, like, it's a non-issue. So go get it done. That's my parting shot to everyone out there listening. Get your colonoscopies. Prevent pretty horrible disease. So that's the show. We want your emails. Send them to myrockfight@gmail.com. The Rock Fight is a production of Rockfight LLC for producer Dave, our consigliere, Eoin Comerford. I'm Colin True. Thanks for listening, and here to take us out, it's our guy Chris DeMakes, and he's going to sing the Rock Fight song right now. We'll see you next time, Rock Fighters.
Rock fight.